Awesome. Hi everyone. Welcome to another episode of Fiercely Made Fit with Tiana B. I am your host Tiana B, and today we have a new special guest with us. Her name is Danielle, and I'm gonna go ahead and let her take the reins of everything and kind of explain who she is and what it is that she does.
Hey there. My name is Danielle Godby. I am the owner and founder of DG Fit Space, which is a holistic wellness coaching business. I guess I'm a holistic wellness coach for neurodivergent people, specifically women, but not always women. Um, yeah, I work with a lot of folks on how to regulate their nervous systems and to feel more at ease in their bodies in general. And fitness is a big vehicle for that.
Awesome. Awesome. I love to hear it. That's very interesting. I know that a lot of trainers and everything usually have something that they specialize in, one way or the other. But I would like to hear a little more about neurodivergent training. I haven't come across anyone who does that.
Yeah, me either. Um, so it kind of started when I was working. I've been working in gyms for a while. Like there's a whole group of us who just it's been like 10 or 11 years of me just working in different gym settings and boutique fitness studios. And I
Mhm.
learned late in life that I have ADHD. And so I'm like, oh, a lot of things are falling into place. They're making a lot more sense now. Um, But there are specific things like sensory processing that are really different for us with ADHD or autism or
Mhm.
anyone who considers themselves to be neurodivergent. And what I noticed is we have conversations about something called executive dysfunction, which is essentially like, oh, I have too many thoughts going on all at the same time in my brain, and I feel kind of paralyzed, and I'm not able to really perform functions of daily living as I want
Mhm.
to. And so it's my theory. There are lots of studies out there that will back me up on this, but it is my observation that this executive dysfunction is coming about because we're freaking overwhelmed. Like we are overstimulated. We just have a lot of like light and sound and tactile feedback coming into our nervous
Right.
system, and no one really talks about that part. So I figured if you can address all of the overwhelm and the overstimulation and help a person come back to a grounded, regulated place,
Mhm.
then we can really start to feel better in our bodies and move forward with fitness at that point.
No, for sure, for sure. That's awesome. Seriously, like I said, I know a lot of when people like really get into fitness and even become trainers, they like to specialize in certain aspects of fitness. So you know, I think it's important to have trainers like you. That's something that we need, especially like in today's world. There's so many stimulants that it's like hard to really focus.
Hmm. Yeah.
So yeah, that's great though. That kind of I know you just kind of gave a an overview, but that kind of leads me into my first question that I have for you is like, what motivated you to start this journey, like your personal journey?
Hmm.
Could you give us a little details regarding that?
For sure. Yeah. I did ballet as a kid for when I was 3 all the way through high school. And I didn't realize that ballet was kind of just dance in general was keeping me sane.
Mm-hmm.
um, because all that movement was really helpful to just get me into a grounded place. But when I went to college, I was studying exercise physiology, and I felt so out of place because I was in classes with all of these very active people, but my sport was at home, and I didn't really
Mm-hmm.
have a studio anymore. And so I was like, I don't know, I'll try group fitness classes and see how that goes. And I just felt like as soon as that was gone, that structure was gone, I felt crazy. I thought
Right.
I was barely making it by. I was an honor student in high school, but college took me for a loop and I was like, what is happening? So I found a loophole, which I recommend to everyone. If you teach fitness, they pay you to do it, and if someone pays me to do it, I will 100% show up and work out. So that's kind of how I got started. I was like, well, this feels like cheating, but I'm gonna roll with it. So I started teaching group fitness, and I haven't really stopped ever since.
Oh wow. That's honestly, I can agree with that. Like if you're paying me, I trust and believe.
I will be there.
No, I love it. That's a little too real. But now that you've given us like a brief overview, I would like to know, and I'm sure the audience would love to know, um, what roadblocks have you come across up to this point in your journey? Like what has been something or what things have caused you to like kind of pause in your tracks and make you think about things?
Ooh, gosh. Well, I'll bring it back to ADHD, and I didn't really know that I didn't attribute it to this before. I just thought I thought there was something wrong with me, but I didn't have any language. I was just like, I'm feeling a lot of things, but other
Mm-hmm.
people don't seem to be having this experience, so I would just kind of hide it, I guess. And I would just keep it to myself, and that was the worst thing I could do because I would just go into these spirals.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but once I started talking about it, it became a lot easier. So I think the roadblocks that I came up with kind of had to do with me just being too in my head and not understanding what fitness could be. Like,
Right.
what do I mean? But like, I was studying the biology of it. Like, I was in classes learning about all of the specifics, but and like, oh, I know exactly why I'm supposed to do this, but I'm still having trouble getting started. Like, what's the
Yeah.
problem? Um, but once you kind of connect oh, this activity, going on a walk every day, really does make the difference between me feeling really low and feeling creative and inspired. And it turns out that lactic acid is the byproduct of exercise, is one of our like primary substrates used in let me use better words. Our ADHD brains love lactic acid, which is why you'll see people fidgeting and stimming because we're
Right.
producing this lactic acid and it helps us focus. It is brilliant. So it's like if I could have just skipped over college really quick and said, "Hey girl, it like wiggle your body, it's good. It's very good." If I just gave myself the cheat codes to that, I think I would have skipped over a lot of suffering. But that was a big roadblock for me. Like, why? Why do I have to do this?
No, for sure. Wow. Like no, that's seriously very interesting. Like it's as simple as just like moving your body and feeling good. Like
Right.
simple as that. And
And we are
I feel like
overdoing it.
yeah, exactly. Like it does not have to be as difficult as our minds make it out to be. Like being
Hmm.
active isn't like you're not training to fight the Olympians. You're not
Right.
training for something so intense. Like just move your body and that movement will take you such a long way.
Yes. Yes. I would say 9 times out of 10, if I'm working with a client and they come to me with some sort of like I've tried it all headspace, I'm like, okay, well, what are the words they're using? I'm thinking they're getting really specific into the nitty gritty, and I'm like, what if we zoom way out? What if we go like 1,000 foot view? We're talking second grade understanding of this.
Right.
Can we find more happiness within that routine if we're not so focused on counting macros and like what kind of carbs to eat? And it's pretty simple if you tell a second grader like, oh, well, if you eat an apple instead of ice cream, you're going to feel better in your body.
Right. No, I
Like,
totally get it. It's simple as that.
uh-huh.
So, let's go ahead and move on to the next question that I have for you. Um, It's a double header, so you can answer one part and then it can kind of like lead into the next part, however you want to put it. But my question for you is, did you have any goals like when you first started your fitness journey? Did you have any specific goals, and since then have those goals changed?
Oh yeah. I think coming from ballet, any dancer is gonna know like it's very appearance oriented. Like even
Mhm.
the littlest tilt of your wrist, everything is focused on how you look and
Right.
the art. So, man, that's tough. It used to be weight loss and being very thin and slender and like I don't know. I feel like culture tells women to take up less space,
Oh, for sure.
you
For
know,
sure.
and that used to drive me because I'm like, well, I don't want to take up too much space. I want to fit in. I don't want to be, I don't want to feel uncomfortable in my body. And so I was very driven by trying to fit into some box. And eventually it just became one unsustainable, like to move in a direction that's fueled by self-loathing. That doesn't
Mhm.
it doesn't last very long. And two, it just became disinteresting to me. Like I don't there's this is it. That's why people move their bodies. Like but it changed once I found out I've been doing this before I knew I had ADHD, but I'm a multi-passionate person. Like I learned
Right.
that sports don't really do it for me, but learning a skill does. So like watching a sport, that's cool. I'm not hating on sports. If I'm not in it, doing it, like learning how to do the thing, I'm not interested.
Mhm.
So then I would bounce around to like rock climbing or kickboxing, cycling, rowing, weightlifting, and I would do these things for like 6 to 9 months and just get really good at them. And I would love it. And then I would get so bored and I would move on to the other, like whatever is next.
Right.
So it definitely evolved from this like weight loss, being slender and slim into this like, oh, well, if I move my body, then I can do really cool stuff like bouldering. Or like if I go on this walk, I'll have enough energy to go rowing later with my friends.
No, absolutely. And honestly, I feel like that's the case. That I think what I've noticed when it comes to like women and recording this podcast is that the goal, like before, like when you first start, is weight loss and wanting to be skinny, and it's become a pattern. I definitely noticed it's a pattern among us. Like it's
Mm,
unfortunate that that's the case, and like media and even people around us have influenced that, have made us want to be small and skinny and dainty, and there's nothing wrong with women or anyone feminine who has that body figure, who has that figure.
hmm
It's completely understandable. But if you're like, let's say like you're growing up and you're not necessarily on the smaller side, people around you and the social media and everything, they it it weighs on you. It weighs on
hmm
you. So I can
hmm
definitely see how wanting to be skinny and small can be the goal for a lot of girls starting. And it's wonderful to see how that changes moving forward. So I applaud you honestly for your goals having changed into something like you wanting to do something amazing with your body.
Yeah, I mean, it's, I'm hearing what you're saying in a big way. Like it's sitting, because I didn't have a tiny, dainty frame. Like I have a muscular frame. That's
Mhm.
just my genetics, and it's
Right.
like I want there to be space for people to feel comfortable in their own space, in their own size, with their own body. And,
Absolutely.
like my body, I might not be a runner. That's all right. But
Right.
I'm not bummed about it. Like I love other things. Like I love yoga. I have a lot of gratitude for my body and what it can do now instead of this anxious, like, resentment about the shape of my body. Now I'm like, oh, sweet. Like, I'm so strong. I can do this
Mhm.
all day. And that's a really big shift.
That is an amazing shift at that. So I'm so happy for you, like that you found that spark. You know what I mean?
Yeah, thank you.
Of course. So let's go ahead and move on to the next question. I love the fact that we talked about that. That just made me feel like I feel so happy right
I can hear it. Yeah.
um, we're gonna go ahead and move on to the next question, and I want to know. And this is also this is also gonna kind of be a double header, just because you've talked about having ADHD. So
Mm-hmm.
um, maybe this is like a three-part question. I don't know, but we'll go ahead and
Bring it.
test
I
the
love it.
waters. But I'm curious to know how this life of fitness that you've chosen has impacted your mental health and your physical health. And I am curious to know if your ADHD has had an impact on both sides of that spectrum. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Mental health, there's nothing more powerful in my routine that has such a direct impact on my wellness than movement.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm not talking like I know people will tend to meet me for the first time and hear my background and they paint this picture of me as this like Olympic weightlifter or like like someone who's working out 6 or 7 days a week, and that's simply not the case.
Right.
I'm ADHD made a huge impact in the way I work out. I used to be, I used to back in the days when being slender was a top priority. I would basically just live at the gym and that was everything. But once I started shifting my goals to feeling at ease in my body, I do not work out every single day. Like I go on a
Right.
walk, maybe like 30 minutes. I go on a leisurely walk. I'm listening to a podcast or an audiobook. Um, I'll weightlift twice a week, but it's nothing crazy. It's just like, what does my body need? I do yoga once a week. It's very relaxed. And that has
Mm-hmm.
shifted a lot because of my ADHD. Um, I learned that people who are neurodivergent typically have some level of nervous system dysregulation, which basically just means our fight or flight is turned all the way on all the time. And
Right.
that's exhausting. So, exercise in itself is a stressor. And if you go into these high intensity interval workouts, for example, that's going to make it more activated.
Mm-hmm.
So I wouldn't recommend that type of exercise for someone who suffers from chronic anxiety, for example, which was
Yeah.
me for the longest time. And so I gave myself permission. I'm like, I don't think I like this. I don't want to do burpee tech jumps for 45 seconds anymore. And it shifted into yoga and walking and body weight exercises for a while. And when I was grounded in those movements, I noticed my mental and physical health just skyrocketed.
Right.
It was really beautiful.
No, that is seriously amazing. Like, um, there are just so many things out there, and regardless of what you have going on, there are so many things out there that you can find for you personally that works for you and it makes you feel great, not only mentally but physically. And that's, I think, it's so important for people to find their thing, you know.
Hmm. And
So
giving themselves permission to do that without making themselves wrong for it.
absolutely, absolutely, I could not agree more. So um in all honesty, you have shared so much information with us, and you've gone into detail, and I thank you for that, because it has been an amazing talk. But we are winding down to the end of the podcast episode, so I'm gonna go ahead and let you just share any advice or any tidbits, anything you feel like would resonate with the audience? Just share anything on your mind.
Ooh, any juicy question. Very good. Any advice I have? Well, if you could tune into whoever's listening to this, if you could tune into maybe your 7-year-old self and just think back to what made you that brilliant, radiantly happy and excited. What kind of movement did you enjoy at that age? Because the likelihood is that you still will enjoy that type of movement. And give yourself permission to enjoy what you're doing. Hard work doesn't, like exercise does not have to be difficult. It doesn't have to be super hard. It doesn't have to make you exhausted by the end. You don't have to be sore. Like some of these things will happen, yes, but if you are moving consistently and you actually enjoy the things you're doing, you're going to have so much consistency and sustainability in that. And a person who does those things is going to have significantly more results than a person who is dragging themselves into a thing they have to do.
Right.
So
Wow.
I would say that is my advice.
And to anyone listening, please take that advice and really think about it. Like, think about what Danielle has said today. Think about what made you happy when you were about 7 years old. Like, just think about those things, and take that happiness and move it forward. Move your body and feel that happiness. So I completely agree with you. That is great advice for our audience out there.
It's been so much fun talking to you. Thank you so much for having me on.
Danielle, it has been a pleasure to have you on. I like I said, thank you so much for taking the time out to do this. I was having technical difficulties yesterday, but we finally got the podcast episode recorded, and this is going to be great. Thank you so much for everything.
Well worth it. Likewise. Thank you so much.
Absolutely. And as you guys know, Fiercely Made Fit with Tiana B is available on YouTube and Spotify right now. If you could go ahead and like, share, do all the fun stuff when it comes to, social media and everything. Just go ahead and do that stuff for me. It would mean so much. Like I said, thank you so much again, Danielle, and I hope you have a wonderful day.
Of course, you too, Tiana.